Oh,
The
oh, okay, okay.
over time, you don't have to work for today.
It's working? Okay, okay.
No. I would like to call the Monday, April 24th, 2023 Common Council meeting to order. Clerk Jones, believe you have some comments regarding the link for this meeting and other expectations.
Yes, someone has their computer on, you can turn your mic off? Okay. Good evening, members of the public. Right, someone has their. Good evening. Good evening. I know, I turned mine off, so. Good evening. It's still on.
Showing that everybody here has their mics off.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening, members of the public. For audio quality, we will be muting everyone virtually, not speaking by default, to maintain good audio quality for council members as well as yourselves. If you would like to speak during the meeting on specific agenda items, please submit your request to speak in the chat, and directions to do so are located in the chat. We ask that you provide your full name and address, as those are required for all speakers at in-person meetings. If you would like to be called on during the meeting to provide public input, again, insert your name and your address in the chat, and you will be called on during the relevant time. You will be given 5 minutes to speak during public input. For citizens that wish to speak during the privilege of the floor, please insert the following again into the chat. And during that time, the council president will call on you, and you will be given 3 minutes to speak during privilege of the floor. So again, insert your name and your address. And please be sure to unmute yourself prior to giving your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Disrespectful, rude, or disruptive speech or actions will not be tolerated. Such speech and/or actions, as well as verbal attacks on any person, may result in the individual without notice forfeiting the remainder of his or her allotted time. And we do have an invocation this evening by Pastor Spencer Davis with Christian Center Church. You could come and state your name for us, please, and your address.
So my name and my address. Okay.
Okay, could you, one moment, please?
Oh,
Clerk Jones?
I just want to introduce Pastor Spencer. I just had the privilege of swearing him in as a police officer with South Bend Police Department. So I thought it was awesome that he would come and give the prayer for this evening's meeting. I just wanted to shout that out.
Thank you so much, and welcome, and thank you for being here.
So my name is Spencer Davis. I live at 718 Cottage Grove Avenue, South Bend, Indiana, 46616.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Father, we love you. And we thank you for your presence, for your grace, and for your mercy. And we thank you that you have created all things and put all things in its place. I thank you for the city of South Bend, and Lord, I thank you that you have a will for this city, that you have a plan for this city. And Lord, I just want to pray right now over each and every leader in this room, that Lord, you would give each and every one of us wisdom on how to serve this city. Father, I thank you for your son Jesus, who is the reason for our salvation. And Father, I just want to ask that you would give us his heart for this city, that you would give us that servant heart to serve your people and not ourselves. Help us, Lord, to do the right things for the right reasons. And God, I want to pray that we would depend on your Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, and congratulations. Would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And if anyone is here this evening in reference to Bill number 1123, that has to do with rezoning, I think it is, on Broadway. That has been tabled till May the 8th. And if anyone is here in reference to Bill 1423, that is the bed bug ordinance. That has been tabled indefinitely. So if you were here for that, that will not be on the agenda for this evening's meeting. We do not have a report for the subcommittee on minutes. We do have special business before us this evening, which is Bill 2320, which is a special resolution. Clerk Jones, could you read the resolution, please? Oh, I'm sorry, we do need to do roll call. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Tomas Morgan,
Present.
Councilmember Warner, Councilmember Davis,
Here.
Councilmember Wax,
Present.
Councilmember Lee,
Present.
Councilmember Hammond,
Present.
Councilmember White,
Present.
Vice President Nisgowsky,
Present?
President McBride.
She will not be attending this
Okay,
evening.
we have 8 present.
Thank you. Now you can read the special resolution. Thank you.
2320, a special resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, publicly acknowledging and honoring John Adams High School senior Angel Thomas for her success in the 2023 Girls State Indoor Track Meet.
Councilman Davis?
Thank you. I'm going to ask that Angel and her family, if you guys want to come up and join me while we read this document, along with, her coach as well. If you desire to come up here, you're more than welcome. It's not, it's painless.
You can go stand next to him.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
So your cousin is Chris Harris. That's my cousin. Yeah. Great. I want to say thank you to the council and everyone else that's here to support this resolution. It's awesome that we get the chance to commend and praise our children for their work that they're doing across the state. Obviously, she's state, so, she's big time. But we have so many issues with our youth right now, and God knows we need to honor those who are doing really good work. So this needs to be commended at a high level. And plus her pastor challenged me to this as well, last I saw him, so, yeah. But whereas the phrase fast woman has historically had different meanings, not all of them complimentary. And whereas in the case of John Adams High School, senior track athlete Angel Thomas, fast woman has only one meaning, and it is very complimentary. And whereas on March 25th, 2023, Angel used the girls' state indoor track meet to become Adams' third girls' indoor track champion by winning the girls' 60-meter dash in 7.62 seconds, the fastest time by a high school girl in Indiana this year. And whereas Angel also competed in the 100-meter dash, finishing fourth with a time of 11.96. Girl, you were moving. And whereas Angel is not satisfied with the accomplishments, but uses them to set the goals for 2023 outdoor season. And whereas those goals include breaking the 200-meter record for Adams High School, along with the record for long jump, and bringing home state championship in the 100 and 200-meter dashes. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, as follows. Section 1, the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana publicly acknowledges and honors Angel Thomas for her athletic accomplishments, including a state championship in the 60-meter dash. Section 2, the council also wishes Angel the best of luck in accomplishing her remaining goals in the 2023 outdoor season. Section 3, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption by the Common Council and approval by the mayor, signed by every council member that you see up there and those that you don't see. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. Would you like to say anything?
I'm grateful for this award. I actually just came from practice, so that's how you know I'm working hard to win those titles and break those records. I've also been offered a full ride to Indiana State University.
Would anybody else like to make a comment? And if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Pastor Barry C. Spencer, 51604 Dade Court, South Bend, Indiana, 46628. I'd like to echo and ditto what Councilman Davis and Angel has said. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to acknowledge the hard work that our youth are putting in. It's much needed, and we could stand a little bit more of it. So I thank you all for your time and your gratitude on this evening.
Thank you for being here. Would anybody else like to say anything? No?
That's it.
Okay. Is there any council members that would like to have any words for the Councilwoman White?
I just want to thank Councilmember Davis for bringing forth this resolution for outstanding young lady. We're very proud of you. And I think you have another coach standing behind you. Am I correct? Okay, and you don't want to come to the podium? Yeah, okay. I would just say that she is a Delta, and she's very much committed to our youth. So thank you so much, and thank you for your hard work, and continue to stay focused, and you will move very quickly.
Councilman Lee?
Yes, I would just like to also thank Councilman Davis for bringing this resolution before us. And Angel, we are so proud of you. We're so proud, and we believe that you're going to do great things and see a lot of great places. And then one day come back to South Bend, and maybe you'll end up on one of these seats representing our city. So we just want to tell you thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your dedication, and it will pay off. So thank you. We're very proud of you.
Any other council members? Councilman Warner? Councilman Wax?
Your accomplishments speak for themselves and speak to the dedication and commitment that you certainly have. And I just want to wish you success in everything that you do, and you're able to continue with that record of success in everything that you do, both athletically and academically, with much success in the future.
Councilwoman Hammond, do you have any?
Now, just congratulations as a former competitive runner. You are fast. You are very fast.
Yes, and thank you so much for Councilman Davis for bringing her to us tonight. The city of South Bend is very proud of you, and we wish you all the best luck as you continue your upper education, and congratulations. Let's give her a big round of applause. Would you like to do a picture? Councilman Davis, would
She
you
has
like?
absolutely no choice but to take a picture with us. This is yours, too.
I don't know if I do or not, it doesn't work.
Councilman, if I may, I'd just like to acknowledge Coach Savina Rivera and Coach Andre Scruggs, who are, Savina Rivera is the Adams girls head coach, and Coach Scruggs is the pole vault coach. But they all played a role in making this young lady's dreams come true. I was out in Baltimore most of the last year, and those two gentlemen took over the training indoors until I could return. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have no reports from city offices. So at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to resolve into the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
The Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council's meeting where bills are given a second reading and public hearing. I wish to share with you that the bills that will be given a second reading and public hearing have been given a first reading and set for a committee meeting and public hearing prior to this evening's meeting. In addition, you will hear from the chairperson of the committee where the bill was discussed and the results of that discussion. If the proposed ordinance is a zoning ordinance, a report from a staff member will be given. In all other situations, the formal presentation on the proposed ordinance will immediately follow the committee report. The formal presentation shall be on time. And again, those of you, as Vice President Miskowski said, Bill number 1123 has been tabled until May 8th. Bill number 14-23 has been tabled indefinitely, so if you were here for the bed bug ordinance, it has been tabled indefinitely. And so now, Clerk Jones, will you give Bill 16-23 a second reading?
1623, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 616 and 618 Sherman Avenue, Councilmanic District Number 1, in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, Chair. Bill number 16-23 came before zoning and annexation this afternoon and comes to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Is the petitioner present? I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding the bill that's before us.
Yeah, Rachel Boyle, zoning specialist. Office is on the 14th floor of this building. Property is located at 616 and 618 Sherman Avenue. The owner is Property Bros LLC, and the requested action is to rezone from U2 Urban Neighborhood 2 to U3 Urban Neighborhood 3. This is currently a vacant lot, and the petitioner is requesting this rezoning to utilize the city's pre-approved plan for the sixplex. These housing types blend well with the character and scale of the existing urban neighborhoods. With its location in a fairly walkable urban neighborhood that is close to a major corridor and its businesses transit in downtown, this property is well suited for U3. This comes to you from the Plan Commission with a favorable recommendation subject to the execution of the written commitment that no more than 6 units shall be permitted on the property. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the petitioner is here.
Petitioner, council members, do you have any questions for the petitioner? Would you state your name and your address?
Yes, Jordan Richardson, CEO of Property Bros LLC, 1251 North Eddy Street, South Bend, Indiana.
If there's no questions at this time, we will go to the public hearing portion. Clerk Jones, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 16-23? All right, I ask that you would give your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Schuth. I'm Executive Director at Near Northwest Neighborhood, 1007 Portage Avenue. These properties are within the Near Northwest neighborhood, and I'm just coming in full support of this zoning change to U3. It's very appropriate for this parcel being so close to Lincoln Way. In fact, the only real neighbor that I was worried about was this house that you see in there, and Property Bros also owns this house. So he's doing a development that makes a lot of sense, fits the neighborhood plan, and also to let you know that we have not heard any negative feedback regarding this proposal, and it has our full support. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor, or is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition?
There's no one from the virtual audience that is expressing interest to speak in favor or in opposition of this bill.
At this point, the public hearing on Bill 16-23 is now closed. Council members, would anybody like to make any statements regarding this bill? Mr. Wax?
Just want to say thank you for your continued investments into redeveloping South Bend. So thank you and wish you much success.
Anyone else? I will say go ahead, Ms.
I would
White.
say as one of my former students from IUSB, I am tremendously proud of you, the work and your commitment that you have given not only to the university, but to the city as well. Thank you, and continue the good work.
And I would like to say, as the first district council member in this area, I'm excited because everyone talks about affordable housing and all of that, but the only way that we as council people can advocate for it is when developers want to partner with the city to do it. So I am so grateful that I can't wait to see a sixplex. It's the first one that's been built in the city, I think, ever, or a with the plans that the city has provided. And so these are very valuable tools that individuals and developers can use in order to enhance a neighborhood. And we've got a sixplex. Kathy is building a fourplex that's almost coming along very good. The Pattons are building houses. So I'm excited when we talk about affordable housing and it being done in the first district. And so thank you, and I'm excited about it. So now I will entertain a motion.
Councilman Lee, may I ask one?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm just curious about parking. I know it's not required that there is parking. Is this street parking, or is there structured parking for this?
Yes, so you are correct in terms of there not needing to be a dedicated parking lot or anything of that nature. We do intend to use street parking and help actually with the density of that area. We don't see there being a problem with the parking as of right now. Obviously, there's a lot of development to be done on that sector of that block, but we do intend to use street parking.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right, no problem. We'll make sure everybody get their questions. I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 16-23.
Move to send to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. All that are in favor, say aye. Do I need?
You need a roll call.
Got to do a roll call. All right,
Okay.
Clerk Jones.
Councilmember Davis? Aye. Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner? Aye. Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Nisgowsky?
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right. Bill 16-23 will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. Clerk Jones, would you please give 20-23 a second reading?
2023, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 6 of the South Bend Municipal Code by rescinding and replacing Article 14 titled Rental Safety Verification Program.
Is there,
You gotta-
oh, I'm sorry, it is a substitute. I would make a motion to to accept the substitute bill.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner? Aye. Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Nisgowsky?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right. Is there a committee report?
This bill came before the Health and Public Safety Committee earlier today and comes to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Is the petitioner present? I ask that you state your name and address and share with us key points regarding the bill that's before us.
Sheila Nisgowsky, 4942 Scenic Drive, South Bend, Indiana, 46619.
And Liz Meredith, Director of Neighborhood Health and Housing, with offices on the 13th floor of this building.
The Rental Safety Verification Program, known as RSVP, was established in 2019. Shortly after the start of the program implementation, RSVP was halted due to COVID-19. After relaunching the program in the summer of 2021, the staff has had more time to use and interpret the existing municipal code, as well as the inspectors and the landlords and myself as a sitting councilwoman. Through this process, opportunities have been found to help clarify the program and its processes and improve the implementation. Some of the overview for that is clarifying the language to better understand, for better understanding and the ease of use, clear definitions of the process to ensure that it matches the actual implementation, including compliance with state law, references to and clarification of building and other standards to be used for inspections, adding to and improving the definitions, and revision of the city's organizational structure of the RSVP within the reorganized Department of Community Investment. So I did give a detailed report in the committee this afternoon, and I would ask for the passage of this ordinance.
Other petitioner want to say anything or add anything? Okay. All right. Council members, do you have any questions? Yes, Councilwoman Hammond?
Councilwoman Nitzgotsky, I would just think for the benefit of the people listening, that you go through your explanation again about what is truly needed in terms of inspectors for this to be a proactive bill as was originally intended.
So where I can start with RSVP, when Tim Scott was with us and he left, he said, hey, Sheila, do you think you could look at RSVP? And the original intent was looking at the uses with lead, because of the lead in the homes. So we did a deep dive into this, and as we started going through it, we also noticed that it was supposed to have had a one-year review after the implementation. Obviously, that couldn't happen, and so that review began. After we started looking into it, I looked into all the federal laws, the state laws. There's a lot of things that the state laws currently prohibit us to do. This was a 2-year process, research, study, looking at the new laws that were passed, federal standards, but also having dialogue with people in the community, as well as the landowners. And what we found was the process needed to be clarified. There were definitions that were not included. And through that process, we came up with this document. So it's really important, as far as the RSVP inspections go, to make sure that our rental properties are maintaining a minimum standard of living. And that's why this was brought in 2019 and created by then, I believe, Councilwoman White and Tim Scott, I believe, were the architects of this first piece of legislation. So it is vitally important. This was written more as a proactive, but with the amount of inspectors that would be needed, this is really more of a reactive than proactive. And we have outlined very clearly on things like how to get an inspection done, the processes behind that, the definitions associated with those processes, as well as any fines that may be attributed to failure to meet the standard, or to have the inspection, or to fail to show up for a reinspection. That's all outlined in the ordinance. So it was a very vital piece for the city. I'm proud to have the help of Liz Meredith and her team, Tom Pankowitz. Pam Meyer at the time had a lot to do with these revisions, as well as Attorney Palmer. And in the beginning, I did ask for some reflection on this document from Councilwoman Rachel Tomas Morgan and Karen White. So it's been a long process, but it's a good ordinance. It's been thoroughly vetted and thoroughly explained as far as the processes. This isn't for the landlords that are good landlords, which there are a lot. This is for the ones that are not maintaining their properties. So it's very impactful to the city of South Bend and the people in rental properties. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Yes. Okay. Okay. Yep. All right, so now we'll go to the public hearing portion. Clerk Jones, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of Bill 20-23? I ask that you state your name and address.
Hi again, Kathy Schuth, Executive Director of Near Northwest Neighborhood at 1007 Portage Avenue. When this bill first came around in 2019, we worked together with Councilman Tim Scott and others in putting this forward as a way of providing safe and healthy housing for renters in our community. We know that this type of bill is a model that is used for cities nationally to help improve the quality of rental housing. And again, good landlords welcome this type of bill. And it puts a little bit of fear into landlords who aren't keeping up their properties. In 2019, when this was put forward, right after that, of course, came 2020, and the implementation kind of got sidetracked due to the pandemic. So when it came time to take another look at this, it was found that a lot of the implementation really wasn't in alignment with what had been happening. So I couldn't be more appreciative of Councilwoman Nisgowsky for leading the charge and working. She's kept us in the loop because Near Northwest Neighborhood has been very interested in the success of this bill. But I would also say we also host a group called the Lead Affinity Group South Bend, and we have since 2017 in trying to reduce lead poisoning in the community. And the Lead Affinity Group also sends me here to tell you that you have full support from Lead Affinity Group and those looking to reduce. While this bill will not allow testing, lead testing within the home because of state law, it will allow peeling paint to be noted, as well as they're working right now to see if they can get an option with Notre Dame, who has created a lead screening kit, to have on a voluntary basis if the tenant or resident wants to have a lead screening kit that they fill out. So there's some really creative stuff going on with that. And I would just encourage you, we've talked about the proactive, reactive piece. I would encourage the council to continue to revisit this bill and see how it's going and to watch state law, and perhaps there will be opportunities in the future where some of this stuff can be a little bit more proactive. But I think it's about the best we can do right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Jones, is there anyone else want to speak in favor or in opposition?
There's no one in the virtual audience that is expressing interest to speak in favor or in opposition of this bill.
All right, at this point, the public portion and hearing of this bill is now closed. Council members, would you like to make any statements?
Yes, I want to thank Councilmember Sheila Nisgowsky for your hard work on this. I really appreciate, and I told you earlier that most of my phone calls at this point are issues with housing and how people feel like that they are being mistreated and or being oppressed, to be honest with you, with some of their housings they're living in, whether it's bed bugs or lead paint, you name it, I've gotten a phone call about it. One thing I do want to remind us all, and I said this to you earlier because I know the budget sessions are coming up here soon. Wow, this is very soon. The idea that we do need workers to help enforce this law. Us just putting things out there and hoping that something works out is not good enough at this point, given what we are confronted with. And we're confronted with is children who have been poisoned by lead. I have a phone call probably about 3 weeks ago with a young man, or a little boy. It wasn't a young man. It was a little boy that was lead poisoned in a home. And I'm your huckleberry on this one. I will go with you down how far we need to go to make sure that we are staffed properly so we can actually enforce the law. I know that, Kathy said that, this is the best we can do. No, we can do better. We're going to do better, right? And so I'm with you in asking for the monies that are needed in order to make this happen, because our residents deserve it. They do.
Councilwoman Lori Hammond.
Thank you. Just briefly, I would like to say that I see this as one of the additional pieces to the puzzle of providing the livable housing that is necessary and so desperately needed in this city. So I thank you for the work that you put in, and I agree with Councilman Davis that I think we can take it further.
Thank you.
Councilman Wax.
Thank you, and I want to thank you, Councilwoman Nisgowsky, for doing the work to provide clarity into this statute. That's always the most important thing when there's a law. It's that everybody who's affected by the law knows what the law is. So to that, for that, I thank you. I do want to make a general point that it's something to bear in mind as we talk about regulations regarding landlord-tenant issues. And that is that in the big picture, the more regulations that we do put on landlords, while that will necessarily improve the living conditions of a property, it also has the effect of raising the cost of maintaining those properties by the landlord, which is almost always passed on to the tenant, and does contribute in part to increased rental prices. So while I do support this amendment as it provides necessary clarity to a law that's in place, I do think it's important for us to remember as we think about other regulations in the future, that the unintended consequences that they may lead to. So thank you.
Mr. Warner? Councilwoman Thomas Morgan?
I think everyone previously already said what I was going to say, but I too just want to express my gratitude to the hard work that you've done, Councilwoman Nitzgotsky, to get into the weeds of this ordinance and this kind of revision. It takes a lot of attention to detail. It has taken, as you said, a couple of years. That's no small task. I mean, it sounds like a long time, but she's what Councilwoman Nitzgotsky has modeled are the kinds of conversations that are important and needed to be able to pass proposed legislation that's actually going to be executed. And so there are similar bills that we're sitting on that, could use some revision. And so thanks for taking this work up, Councilwoman Nitzgotsky, and just want to thank you for your work there. I do want to say my husband represents tenants who live in problem properties, and so he comes home on a daily basis and shares with me what he sees, and there are real legal, obstacles in place. But as others have said, this is an important step for the city to take, and thank you for leading that charge.
Thank you.
Councilwoman White?
I would also like to thank Councilwoman Sheila Nitzgotsky for really taking the charge from former Councilmember Tim Scott. When we first started having these conversations, I think it was in 2019, we had a number of meetings and working with administration and others, and little did we know that the pandemic was right around the corner. And I'm so glad that you were able to take what had been passed and to look at it with fresh eyes and to line it up with the state and other expectations as well. This is a great beginning, and I'm very hopeful as we move forward that we'll continue when we pass any type of bills, that we look at the other part too. What will it take to ensure that they are effectively monitored, but also that we have the resources to ensure a level of success as well. So the budget is right around the corner, and that's going to be very exciting.
And I would just also echo all of the comments that everyone has said. I had a young lady who was living in she was living in a slum, and she was paying $1,500 a month and didn't have heat, didn't have running water, and it was just a mess. And so we know what's out there and what people are facing. And so, again, thank you for doing the work and not only just coming up, revising the legislation, but actually getting the input from the people that will be affected by it, especially the landlords and all of that. So that's the kind of due diligence that we have to do as we're creating legislation. And so thank you for taking that model. And with that being said, I will now entertain a motion. Or would you like to say any last thing?
No, I would just like to thank everyone that helped me through this process. It was a long process, and I would appreciate your support very much.
All right.
Councilman Lee, may I, please?
Go ahead.
I would like to reiterate, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I want to reiterate, I just keep hearing a lot of the apathy in discussion as it relates to enforcement and how we don't want landlords to feel attacked, or we don't want landlords to feel like they're on an island. Landlords are investors. They understand the money thing, right? They understand what the profit margin is going to be based upon what they are offering as a product. And I get that, and it's based on the market as well. I get that as well. But we have residents that I'm really, really concerned about when it comes to housing, being poisoned in their housing, not having heat, like you said, and et cetera. And so I want to make sure that we focus in on the residents that need the support, rather than saying that the landlord is this, the landlord is that. Yes, we can do work for the landlords, but I think it's the residents within the city that really need the support. The residents who don't have enough money to pay for adequate housing or need subsidized housing. You understand what I'm saying? Those things are the things that really impact me on my day-to-day, and I'm sure it impacts everyone else's day-to-day. So as we were talking about this, I want to make sure that we refocus in on the population of people that live here in South Bend that are impacted at this level. I have a whole housing complex, which is called Beacon Heights in the 2nd District, that has as many problems as you would want to ever have in housing, okay? LaSalle Park Homes, same situation. The people are living in atrocious living conditions here in the city. You will probably, it'll blow your mind, the stuff that I've seen.
Oh, I've seen
And so I just want to make sure that we focus in on that, because that is the most important part of this here.
That was what I was saying.
And it's not a landlord thing. I'm not saying it to
No.
you, like
Oh,
bringing it,
okay.
I'm not laying it at your feet. I'm just saying I want people to focus in on the persons that are impacted by this. The law was designed to protect people, right? It wasn't designed to make more money.
Thank you. At this point now, I'll now entertain a motion regarding bill. I'm sorry, substitute bill 20-2023.
So moved.
Second. What's
All right.
motion? The motion is, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry?
your motion?
Well, he said, and I just said so moved because he said it first.
Okay.
He was reading it off.
He said you would entertain a motion.
Okay, well, I'm sorry then. Well, I make a motion that substitute bill, where am I at?
20-23.
That's where I was, 20-23, be, go to the full council with favorable recommendation. I'm sorry.
I second.
Thank
All
you.
right, there's been a motion and a second. Clerk Jones, please call the roll.
Councilmember Warner. Aye. Councilmember Wax.
Aye.
Councilmember White. Aye. Councilmember Tomas Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond.
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Lee.
Aye.
8 ayes.
All right. This bill will be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation. I will now entertain a motion to rise from the committee of the whole and report back to the full council.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and second. Clerk Jones, please take the roll.
I think we can do a.
Oh, we can do this. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, motion carries.
Okay, the regular meeting is now reconvened. We're going to move to bills on third reading. This is the portion of our meeting where bills are given a third reading and action is taken regarding bills that were heard during the committee of the whole. Clerk Jones, could you please give Bill 3-23 a third reading?
323, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, annexing to and bringing within the city limits of South Bend, Indiana, certain land located in German Township, contiguous therewith, Councilmanic District Number 1, for the southeast corner of Nips Parkway and Olive Road, South Bend, Indiana.
And just for clarification, this was set for third reading today because they had to be segmented into different readings. Is that correct, Mr. Palmer?
That's correct. Public hearing was held several weeks ago.
Thank you. Councilman Lee, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole regarding Bill 2023?
Bill 03-23 was heard in the public, committee of the whole, and it comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion regarding the bill.
Move for passage.
Second.
It's been moved and duly seconded. Clerk Jones, could you call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Wax.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond.
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Lee.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 2023 has passed. Clerk Jones, will you give Bill 1123 a third reading? Oh, I'm sorry, that was tabled.
1623.
Yeah, this was tabled. Yes, could you give Bill 1623 a third reading, please?
Yes. 1623, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 616 and 618 Sherman Avenue, Councilmanic District Number 1, in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Councilman Lee, is there a recommendation from the Committee of the Whole regarding the bill?
Yes. Bill 16-23 was heard in the Committee of the Whole, and it comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 1623.
Move for passage.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 1623 has passed. Clerk Jones, could you give substitute Bill 20-23 a third reading?
2023, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 6 of the South Bend Municipal Code by rescinding and replacing Article 14 titled Rental Safety Verification Program.
Thank you. Councilman Lee, is there a recommendation for the bill?
Yes. Bill 20-23 was heard in the Committee of the Whole and comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion regarding Bill 20-23.
Move for passage.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Thomas Morgan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 2023 has passed. We are now going to move on to resolutions. This is the portion of the council meeting where Common Council hears bills filed as proposed resolutions. The title of each proposed resolution is read by the city clerk, and a report from the committee chair of the standing committee to which the bill was referred to for advisory review and recommendation is then given. During the public portion of each proposed resolution, members of the public are invited to address the council. We ask that you please give your name, address, and comments on the bill. If you have any questions, they will be addressed by the presenter during their rebuttal. Each member of the public is limited to 5 minutes, with those speaking in favor going first, followed by those in opposition. Then a 5-minute rebuttal for the presenter of the bill. Do we have a committee report?
Yes, Vice President Nitzkatsky, this came to community investment this afternoon and comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. I see we have a presenter. If you could just give your name and address for the record.
Eric Lavich, Director of Growth and Opportunity within the Department of Community Investment. Office is on the 14th floor of this building. Council, before you for your consideration is the confirming resolution of an abatement that you had passed a declaratory resolution of 2 weeks ago. It concerns a 5-year single-family residential real property tax abatement for properties located at 724 Harrison Avenue and 726 Harrison Avenue. These are 2 currently vacant lots in the near northwest neighborhood, just north of Lincoln Way. These lots are owned by a group named Cross Community, Inc., which provides services to residents in that neighborhood. These tax abatements will impact these 2 different parcels for which Cross Community will build 2 brand-new homes using the city's pre-approved plans. Images of the types of homes that they will build are on your screen. Each house will be about $220,000 minimum for Cross Community to build. And the beneficiaries of these tax abatements are not Cross Community. They're going to be the eventual homeowners that will be purchasing these homes from Cross Community. Cross Community has a program where potential homeowners will go through financial and homeownership courses, and at the end will purchase these homes. So the abatement which you are voting on will benefit those homeowners. For each house, you know, on your screen, you can see what we would estimate the tax burden for these houses once they are completed will be. For new homeowners, as you can quite imagine, these, you know, a $10,000 over 5-year tax bill might be a significant burden. So this abatement would alleviate a very significant portion of those taxes for these new homeowners. So it'd be a great benefit for these people, you know, as, you know, they look to establish themselves in this neighborhood. The representative of Cross Community Inc. is here. She can answer any questions you might have and talk about the project, and I can answer questions as well.
Thank you. Just give your name and address for the record, please.
Tina Patton, President, Cross Community, 707 Sherman Avenue, South Bend, Indiana. The only thing I would like to add is just the passage of this resolution would allow further for the homeowners to be able to decrease the amount that they would pay, making the homes more affordable for them. As we've already heard today, that we know that affordable homes are necessary in the community. And I appreciate what Jordan is going to be doing as well, as others, Kathy, as well as working with in the Northwest side to continue to help to revitalize this area. So the passage of this will be very important to homeowners in this area. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I'll come back to our council members. Is there any questions for either presenter? No? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone here speaking to wishing to speak in favor of Bill 2319? There's a familiar face.
Kathy Schuth, Executive Director, Near Northwest Neighborhood. We're at 1007 Portage Avenue. And thank you for stacking all these wonderful neighborhood bills into one meeting. These homes are being built about a block and a half from the project that you saw previously. That'll be at 616 Sherman Avenue. And Harrison and Sherman Avenue are particular target points for new development as identified in our neighborhood plan. We are just thrilled. We're going to be celebrating as our organization our 50th anniversary in 2024. And I would say for about 45 of those years, it felt like we were the only ones developing anything in the Near Northwest neighborhood. So to see other, both private and religious-based and CDCs come up and say, you know, that this is work we can do together. We all have similar goals. We're all working together. And to see the tools that are possible to help bring home ownership into areas where kind of the market is still upside down. This is very exciting, and I'm just here to support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
There is no one from the virtual audience that's expressed an interest to speak in favor of Bill 2319.
Would you like to speak in favor? Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak against?
There's no one from the virtual audience that's expressed an interest to speak.
The gentleman in
You
the
wanna-
audience, do you have a question? Would you like to speak in favor or against?
Well, I just want to ask a few questions about it.
Yeah, if you could approach the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Roosevelt Stewart, 1222 Huey Street, South Bend, Indiana. As I'm looking at this, the pricing on these houses, normally the prices of the houses that in that area, this is a significant amount more. And the question that I have is the programming to get those people in these houses, what will be their suggested proposal to get inside these homes?
Thank you for that question. This is a program, so what you're showing here are the estimates that the city has come up with for this abatement. So the program that we have is a pilot program where we are actually providing gap financing for the potential homeowners for this program once they go through a home buyers program for us. And so the potential homeowners are able to, based on the assessed value of the home, be granted up to $100,000 to purchase the home. So in addition to that, there are some other opportunities for them to have decreases in the mortgage price. So the homeowner This is kind of how the program works. The homeowner then will need to get a mortgage of the amount that is up to the appraised value of the home. And then there are some other options that we're using with banks to be able to help the homeowners to afford the home more easily. So those are kind of the mechanics of the house. And so what you're showing here is from the city. But it is costing us about $250,000 or $260,000 to actually build the home. And so the cost to build is a lot more than what you see right here. And so there's gap financing that will be provided for the homeowners, and that is how the houses are going to become affordable. So we're not building substandard housing. We're building housing that is standard, but we're making it affordable by providing a grant to the homeowners.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that explanation. Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
I'll just make one point. I think the gentleman's question raises a point that comes up quite often, which is how do we get these numbers? So it's pretty straightforward in terms of we look at what the hard costs to build a real property might be, and then we take a certain percentage of that. So typically it's around 80%. I don't remember the specific percentage we use for this, but we also have to take into account certain things like values of property in a certain neighborhood. So this is really only an estimate. The process is once council approves an abatement and confirms, it passes the confirming resolution, what ends up happening is the property, upon its completion, will be evaluated and assessed by the county assessor, just like any other property would be. And, hopefully our estimates are kind of close, but there's no guarantees that what we estimate the values would be actually what the assessor would come up with.
Okay,
May I
thank
also-
you.
May I also add, too, that the homes that you're looking at now are the pre-approved plans from the city of South Bend. They also provide pricing estimates, and I would say that the pricing estimates are very close to what the builders have provided to actually build the homes.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
The 80%, is that a number that's periodically reevaluated? I know that just home prices change, construction prices change.
Yeah, we look at each estimate on a case-by-case basis. I can't speak for the assessor in terms of how they evaluate, but I do know that hard costs and a certain percentage of that in terms of what lenders might evaluate as terms of what value of a property might be.
From your department, is that, this 80% is the number that they've been using for years, or is this a number?
It predates me, yes, so.
Okay.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Clerk Jones, do you see anyone wishing to speak against?
There's no one expressing interest to speak in the virtual audience.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to close the public hearing on Bill 2319. I'll come back to the council. If you don't have, do you have any questions, or does anybody wish to make a motion regarding 2319?
I would like to make a motion, if there's no statements being made, for the adoption of resolution, the substitute. Is this the substitute one? No. Resolution Bill 23-19.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and duly seconded to adopt the resolution bill number 2319. Clerk Jones, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Hammond?
Aye.
Vice President Niskoski?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Lee?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wax?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomas Morgan?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 2319 has been adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now going to move to bills on first reading. Clerk Jones, could you please give Bill 21-23 a first reading?
2123, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 1301 and 1305 Elwood Avenue, Councilmanic District Number 1, in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 21-23 to the South Bend Plan Commission for May 15th, and to the Z&A Committee for public hearing and third reading on May 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk Jones, could you give the roll? Oh, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Clerk Jones, could you please give Bill 22-23 a first reading?
2223, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, to vacate the following described property: the first north-south alley lying west of Eddy Street, bounded on the south by the north right-of-way line of Quimby Street, and bounded on the north by the south right-of-way line of the first east-west alley lying north of Quimby Street, being approximately 99.99 lineal feet.
Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to send Bill 22-23 to Public Works and Property Vacation for public hearing and third reading on May 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Move on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business?
Absolutely. May
Councilman
I?
Davis?
Thank you.
Mhm.
I thought we were going to hear a presentation from the Park Department or an update about MLK Center.
We're going to hear that on May the 8th. Aaron Perry was out of town and wasn't going to be back until today, and so they're going to be making the presentation on May the 8th.
Okay.
Next meeting.
Sure. Second thing, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the housing housing and the enforcement of housing through code enforcement or even probably building department, I'm not sure. I don't know how that's structured in a way that makes a lot more sense than not, but this past week, we suffered another loss in our community with an 11-year-old being gunned down. Now, I'm not going to belabor the point about the 11-year-old because that is a very shameful and hurtful conversation. I did not want to have that conversation. I don't even know what to say to my son. He went to school with a young man, a young little boy. And so it's a really hard discussion. But what I will say is that the neighbors in that area have said that that house has been a target for 5 different shootings. This is what the neighbors say. This is what the neighbor directly to the south of this particular property said. He said that there's been 5 shootings. Now, I do know when we had a very active code enforcement department, when Catherine Topo was here, this predates some of you, there was a very aggressive way of taking care of said problems. One being a shooting or loud music or what have you that's interrupting the quality of life of a particular area in the neighborhood. I remember being able to get someone over there quickly, and whether it was a ticket written or they will be pushed out of their homes because sometimes it was a rental unit, that would happen. I didn't have necessarily a delay in response. The conversation was, from a constituent, Councilman Davis, blah, blah, blah is happening. I'll make a phone call or email to Catherine Topo. That Monday, if it was a weekend or the next day, there will be a letter that was generated and sent out because of the behavior that was happening. This particular issue right here, 5 shootings is egregious. It's beyond egregious. Did I witness it? No. But the neighbor next door, just south of it, he attests to me, a local business owner, said that house has been hit 5 different times and 5 different shootings. I don't know who's doing the counting and code enforcement or the building department, but obviously somebody has been breaking the law and someone has not been enforcing the law. I am very much interested in finding out what that process is at this point, because obviously somebody's not doing their job. This is the example I just gave you. Obviously, it's a horrible, terrible example. I'm not laying that at someone's feet. But when you have 5 different shootings at one house, and they're still there, behaving the same way they've been behaving, and then an 11-year-old falls victim to that behavior, yeah. So I'm going to ask council leadership, just like I asked before about the MLK Center, who can we get here to figure out what's the 1, 2s, and 3s when it comes to such behavior? If this city is not interested in responding to something like this, I don't know what we're doing up here.
I will check into that and get back to you. I'm not sure if that would be a report from code enforcement, the police department, as a nuisance property. I'm not sure how all that would tie into one singular report, but I can definitely talk this over with President McBride, and we will get back to you, Councilman Davis. I believe that is a concern for all of us sitting here before you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Councilwoman Hammond?
Thank you. This summer, based on recent reports, put us on track for the hottest summer in recent history. Conversations with neighborhoods surrounding the downtown, such as the NNN and the Monroe Park neighborhood. They've identified heightened concerns over the new creation of tent encampments following the May 1st closing of Weather Amnesty. And thirdly, we continue to see evictions soar in our city. These issues bring us back to acknowledging a very desperate need for a year-round amnesty program. I personally cannot, and I don't think this council should, sit by knowing what is coming, leaving our neighborhoods defenseless against the events that will undoubtedly bring heightened crime and traffic, issues with trash and rodents to their neighborhoods, and worst of all, leaving people to live in these very extreme weather conditions. So I call upon my fellow council members to join me in asking the mayor to please find a way to fund a year-round weather amnesty program. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has unfinished business? Okay. Then we're going to go on to new business. The only new business I have is that we will have our next council meeting and committee meetings will be on May the 8th, and the committee meetings times are yet to be determined. Does anybody else have any new business? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the privilege of the floor. And I would like to read a statement regarding the privilege of the floor. Disrespectful, rude, or disruptive speech or actions will not be tolerated. Such speech and/or actions, as well as verbal attacks on any person, may result in the individual, without notice, forfeiting the remainder of his or her allotted time. Individuals who wish to address the council must submit their name and residential address. Individuals will be limited to 3 minutes only. The maximum time limit for this portion of the meeting shall be 30 minutes. Individuals shall not be permitted to address topics which the council has heard previously on the agenda. The council president may assign a topic raised by an individual during the privilege of the floor to the appropriate council member, and/or request the city clerk to contact a member of the city administration for review, and topics assigned shall be responded to the next scheduled council meeting. Was there anyone here that would like to speak under the privilege of the floor? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Sharon Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. 11 weeks ago, on February 6th, when the meeting was upstairs, I made an open-ended offer to the mayor and his staff, to the council, and anybody involved in the city clerk's office. I wanted 1 hour of your time to show you my 6th district. Dingus Day, I had a couple people approach me and say, did anybody take you up on it? No. I had 3 people that were expressed interest, but nobody followed through. And they just shook their head and they said, and they won't. The voters out there are very discouraged and very disappointed. Some of you have heard about the shooting at my house on April 6th. My son lost 2 of his windows. The bullet ricocheted off the neighbor's truck. We never did find it. I don't know how many of you have heard about the shooting on April 15th. Neither one of them have been targeted at our house, yet we're the ones suffering through this. A recent council member made the statement, well, things are going to get better because we were down to 198 officers, we're now up to 240, we're back at full staff. No, you're not back at full staff. Full staff was 270. When that number couldn't be maintained, it was pushed down to make it obtainable. You need to bump that number back up so that you have more officers that can walk the streets, that can meet with the residents. During one of those 11:30 at night shootings, my house thankfully has not been hit. The house to the east of me, the first shooting got hit 3 times, the second time with 5 bullets. They have since basically vacated the house because each time somebody almost got hit with those bullets that weren't aimed at them. Code enforcement and the police department are kind of tied because we can't prove the house that the bullets were for, because they're not hitting the house they're trying for. But I did meet a nice officer, midnight supervisor, I'll just call him officer because I'm not sure if sergeant, lieutenant, and I don't, Calvert. After the second shooting, he made sure he went up and down that street and talked to every resident that came out and wanted to speak. He gave us hours of his time and made us feel comfortable, and he said that he would make sure that his crews were taking care of our houses the best that they could. During one of those events, I stopped to talk to another officer, and I said, do me a favor and look down Chicago Street. And he turned and he looked down Chicago Street, and I said, what do you see there? I had one thing in mind, but he pointed out another. He said, well, there's an awful dark spot there. Is your street light out? And my son's behind me going, no, that's not it, that's not it. And I said, I've been working on a street light since last summer when the other 2 shootings happened. And so, Henry, this house has 4 shootings since last July. And I said, the council, there was a screw up, something happened. They told me they put 9,000 lights out. They felt sure they got my spot. It didn't happen, so we went back. Then it was going to be out there this fall. And then because they realized they screwed up, it's supposed to be out this spring. Hopefully, I don't know where it's at in the list, but even the police officers noticed that that is a very dark, dangerous spot. My point to that officer, what I wanted him to see, is when you look down Chicago, almost everybody has their streetlights on. This is a neighborhood that cares about its neighborhood, that wants it to be safe, that wants it to be inviting. These are not people that can just throw their money away running their lights all night because it is a poor neighborhood. But they are willing to take that extra step to keep their lights on all night long to try and give it a safe neighborhood, and we need help.
Time, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sue Cussom, 4022 Kennedy Drive. I know we're going to be doing the Police Review Board, and I just wanted to say, I think it's always important to look at both sides of an issue and understand. And there's 2 really great books that I think would be great, not only for council to read, but the new review board. 400 Things Cops Know, Street Smart Lessons, and Policecraft, What Cops Know About Crime, Community, and Violence. These are excellent. And I don't know if any of you have done ride-alongs, but, the cops have a really hard job. But for the review board, I think it's important for the citizen side of the board particularly to understand the cops, what the cops are facing. So these 2 books are excellent. I'm also been reading a book called Methland. It's a New York Times bestseller. Talks about drugs in a small community. I don't know if any of you have read it, but it's a New York Times bestseller. What I'd like to point out is there are 500 slots in St. Joe County for methadone treatment. We have a 6-month waiting list. So obviously, those people that want to get off drugs don't have the treatment program available. So we really need to press. I don't know how many people are on that 6-month waiting list. I did ask, but there's 500 slots and 6-month waiting list. So that's a gap. I wanted to point out that's a gap in our community. Success leaves clues, according to Tony Robbins, and I will tell you, violence also leaves clues. There's something called the Violence Project. A lot of interesting things. I'm also doing some research with the Department of Justice. There's some grants that I think we could get a hold of that could help us. Really interesting about how people get to the point of shooting other people. And I think we need to understand that side of it as well, not just the cop side. And then this is a great book on anger management for kids. I think it'd be great to make available at the community neighborhood centers, at schools. It's a workbook teaching kids how to deal with their emotions. And then I'm also talking to someone at Notre Dame about something that I found out, that 40 to 60% of people in jail or homeless were in the foster care system. So by the time people are shooting at each other, the problem's already well beyond where it should be. What we need to look at is, how do we bolster up those foster care kids so they don't become part of the 40 to 60% for homeless and imprisonment? So I'm probably out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Jim Bogner, 807 West Washington Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46601. I want to thank Clerk Jones for providing you with information that I think will be important in the coming days and weeks. Excuse my voice. On July the 11th, 2022, I came before you folks and made my concerns about the western section of the Near West Side Neighborhood Plan known. I pointed out a group of 3 locations: 133 Cherry Street, South Bend Range, 1610, 1628, 1636 Circle Avenue, Hurwich Iron, 1510, 1520 West Washington Street, South Bend Redevelopment Commission. I concluded my remarks by using the words urgency of need. Before each of you, and for the council record, are the Cliff Notes. Yes, the Cliff Notes. A distilled timeline since that meeting last July. Everything you have now is available to the general public, but some of the data has been withheld due to FOIA concerns. IDEM and the EPA and St. Joseph County Health Department have become key stakeholders in these parcels. They understand the gravity of the matter and are working to determine how best to remedy these locations. I want to reinforce the materials I've provided each of you are available in much greater detail, literally thousands of pages, at both the IDEM and EPA websites, and contain hundreds and hundreds of pages of data. None of this would have been possible without 3 true public servants. Former County Councilman Robert Krasinski, County Councilman Raphael Morton, and City Councilwoman Karen White have worked tirelessly with the County Health Department and Mark Espridge to elevate this important issue. I would respectfully urge this council to request a meeting with Leah Trill of MACOG, Mark Espridge of the Health Department, and representatives of both IDEM and the EPA to review in detail ongoing action. The Near West Side neighborhood needs to be made aware of these issues and afforded the opportunity to review this material online. Actually, this should have been an ongoing process, and I am disheartened that this was not done. How concerning is this matter? If you are under 45 years of age, chances are many of those containers have been in the same place since before you were born. I provided each of you with a roadmap of the last 9 months. The paperwork is now on record. I return to my quote of last July. There is an urgency of need that simply must be acknowledged and addressed. Questions remain. If not now, when? If not you, who? I thank the council for the privilege of your time and wish you a good evening.
Thank you. I would want to share for the record that I have not had any recent conversations with Mr. Wagner. Would also want to say that meeting has been scheduled with the different individuals and departments that he has shared with you, and that meeting will be this coming week to continue looking at this issue, but also to come before the council with an update. Thank you.
I got a question. What are we supposed to be meeting with those other department people for, or why? I know we're talking about contamination. I understand this has been a long history as it relates to the second district. I got all that. But it sounds like there's always something moving forward. And I would really like to understand what is he asking us to do in reference to this here paperwork that he's giving us.
I will let Mr. Wagner. I'm not the chair, so I would, let the chair respond.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. Actually, being aware, pushing this forward, representing the community. We talk a lot about restorative justice, but one of the things we don't talk about is justice in our ecological system, in our environment. And that area has suffered for decades. And it has taken 3 individuals, especially Karen White, Councilwoman White, to be able to do this, to bring this to you so that you are aware, and I understand your time is very valuable, so I don't expect you to memorize everything that is there, but I've attempted to distill it and say, we need to come together and figure out how we can get money that is available through the federal government to clean these messes up that we have. And it's not just there, but it is in my neighborhood. It is where I've lived. So by elevating it to your level, you represent us. So whatever you can do to make this better, whatever we can do to show the state and the EPA that we will do whatever is necessary. Many of those places should be fenced off and secured, and should have been a long time ago. And that is something that the city can ask for through the health department, because the health department does have the ability to be able to deal with groundwater issues. And I purposely, in my remarks, stayed away from a lot of information that is in there, because there is a lot there in transfers of property, in pictures that will stun you. Even I, and I think, I don't want to speak for Councilwoman White, were shocked by what we observed. So anything that can elevate the narrative in this is something that I think is important.
Really quick, I want to thank you, and we've had this conversation before.
We have.
What I will say is, and I'm going to ask you this, and I don't mean anything by it, but because the way our organizational chart works with our local government, have you spoken with the mayor's office? Have you spoken directly to the mayor? I'm not going to say the office. Have you talked to the mayor about this?
Have I talked to the mayor?
Yes. No?
No. Last year, we did talk with community investment, and the response was, there are a lot of areas that are polluted in a Rust Belt city.
Thank you.
Nice.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak under the privilege of the floor?
There's no one in the virtual audience that is expressing interest to speak in privilege of the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. If there's no other business before the council, we stand adjourned.
I was going to So I'm interested in that one too. Okay, you had another one. Yeah. And they're a problem for a reason. And like you say, you need to really dig deeper. Why are they a problem?
You've lived that nonsense for a while now.
I'm taking pictures so I can send them to you. Okay, I'll send them to you. I got that one. I know, I got it. Yep. Okay, thank you. That was good information. It is. Because during that time, they could lose their life. Right, that's what I'm saying. And I also thought it was good information that you said about the foster care, because that makes sense. It makes sense. And, with this, yeah, so it's right. So once they shoot at each other, that's the difference. They have chronic events that take place.
Uh-oh, who'd you kill? Thank you.
No, and I was gonna tell you that when I was a board member, I said 42% of the kids move every year, and 30% of those are out of
Yep.
Sorry. It was kind of Ken to write those instructions, but we know our needs to be done here.
There's one thing, heads up, parenting is so empowered. Help me.
So Sharon's not here. Just check if you can see up there.
Yeah.
If the parents, I used to do it with CPS, if the parents lost their children. Right, and by the time, yeah, exactly. Have you talked to Todd Cummings or someone with the school corporation about what that is dead?
Not our stores out there, we picked up there. So now I'm, that's how
Well, you're on point. Oh, okay, okay.
City ever needs to know how many people come down my street, I can tell. Oh, the camera. I know it's only.
No. There are a lot of people that are not doing it because it's going to tap into my system. Really, Dan?
You're not giving them IP address or anything like that, you're just giving them their physical address, so they know they're physically there. And a waiting on them, they don't knock on the door, so your neighbors don't see somebody knocking at your door looking for a camera.
Because they do, they come knock on the door.
And then is there a way Yeah, I can email, okay, yeah. Okay, so they can contact you and say, do you have video from the state? You can go look and say, here, and here's what I got emailed right to them.
Yeah, he can download it, email it to him, which is what we did last summer.
How we going?
There was an actual shootout in front of the house with a group over here and a group over there. They were just